What it is, Brad Lea back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs today in the studio, folks. As always, I got a real treat for you. In fact, I got two, Jeremy Wood and Chris Sutherland in the house. What's happening, gentlemen?
Not a whole lot. Thanks so much for having us on here. Really appreciate it.
Dude, glad to have you both. Hey, if you guys don't know who these guys are, you can follow them on Instagram at Brothers in Healing. They probably have your own separate ones. Do you or no?
No, I don't have a personal one.
Brothers in Healing, folks. That's where you find them. That's where you go frickin' check them out. Also on YouTube, they got a Brothers in Healing 7312. What's that, a badge number?
I don't know. Who's that?
It might be one of our little, our own little podcasts that we try to do and set it out on YouTube.
Way back in the day.
Well, just type in Brothers in Healing. They'll find you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Folks, brothersinhealing.com is their website. Jeremy Wood, also known as Woody, is co-founder with Chris of Brothers in Healing, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting first responders, veterans, and others dealing with PTSD and trauma. You guys are both SWAT.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Yeah,
dude, that's just cool because I used to watch SWAT.
It's not like,
but when you're doing it, it's not as cool as it is on TV.
It isn't.
No. You know, sometimes I don't even like to tell people we were even on SWAT because it's not. It's just repetition, and you really don't get to see much, you know, here and there.
Well, that's the repetition's important for safety and execution.
It is, and that's one of the things that we do talk to a lot of people about training, because I hated training. I know with a passion. I just want to get in and leave. But you know, during some of my stuff, that training, I actually called our SWAT commander after my school shooting and said, "Hey, I don't remember doing this, but thank you for all the training, because I did pay attention, and my body and brain did what I was supposed to do without thinking about it. Like, I don't remember doing it."
That's training.
Yeah.
I always tell people, because obviously I'm in the training space, sales, all kinds of shit. But ultimately, I help people with the software here to train people. And training takes good content, repetition, practice, and accountability. And a lot of times people go through a training course once, and it's like, dude, real training takes repetition. So eventually it becomes like just second nature.
100%.
That's real training.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you guys were on the SWAT team in what, Washington?
Yeah, Washington State. We worked for an agency north of Seattle, about 35 minutes.
And long story short, you guys came down with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
We did, and it was one of those things that was very hard to even say, because, you know, I grew up as a Navy brat, and to me, PTSD is reserved for veterans who were in war. You know, I'm like, Chris, you're just a police officer. You don't have PTSD. So it's really hard for us to accept that we were diagnosed with PTSD, because, you know, my brain growing up was, that's for war, you know, and everybody's like, nope, you guys do have it. And so it's just one of those things that's, it's hard to talk about, and people don't want to admit it either.
Yeah. Well, it's the number one way we're losing our first responders is by suicide due to PTSD. And we're not having a lengthy conversation about it for some reason. I think the guilt and shame is taking over. And a lot of people, if you tell them that you have PTSD, the first thing they say is, "Oh, are you a veteran?" Not realizing that it's our first responders. Actually, firefighters are leading the way in suicides. It's pretty sad. And we lose 22 vets a day to it.
What do you think it is? Technically, like if someone's listening and they're wondering if they have it, what is it? What are the symptoms of PTSD?
Yeah, really good question. I'll let you jump in here. For me, is a real distinct signal is when you stop doing the things that you used to do that brought you happiness. You stop golfing, you stop hunting, fishing, doing all those things that you used to do because it feels like too much work, or you don't want to do it, or you'd rather just sit at home and isolate. You start to get a disdain for crowds and people and the whole nine yards.
That sounds like me, bro.
Yeah. No, it really.
Can you get PTSD if you're not in any kind of situations?
No. These are ingrained.
I feel like what you just described me, like sometimes I just want to avoid people, sit at home. But I've never been to war. I've never been in law enforcement.
Yeah, well, it's a normal function, right? When you're around people all the time and you have conversations, they can wear you out. There's energy drainers, the people, right? So that's a normal thing. Where it's different for someone with PTSD is now all of a sudden you don't feel like getting out of bed, right? You don't feel like taking a shower, or the memories are going back in your mind and you're trying to numb it with alcohol. Is the primary thing that first responders do. Sense of humor and alcohol is what what we use to try to numb it, right? Because you just dealt with a child, some kind of traumatic thing with a child. You can't get that out of your head, and then you go home and your family says, hey, my daughter used to say this, hey, how was your day at work? Tell me, anything exciting happened? All sorts of shit went down, but I'm not sharing it. And as she's asking me those questions, those sights, the smells, the touching that I did, all comes back and it overloads your brain, right? Then all you have to do is show up for work, cover your shifts, and that little seed of PTSD has gotten that water and it starts to grow. And the weeds grow on their own. They'll grow in cracks, crevices, shaded areas. Well, that's what PTSD does, because you're not talking about how you're feeling. You're not getting help for your traumatic trauma that you're seeing, death on a regular basis. Yeah.
And it's just a way, we were very good at masking it. Like I said, I mean, we'd go to the casinos, we were literally the poster child of probably almost alcoholics and of trying to, because we said we're fine, like we talked about, we're both writing a book right now. And my wife, she goes, you need to call it I'm Fine. And so that's what I'm in the title when I get it. It's going to be I'm Fine, because I'd come home from work. Hey, how are you? I'm fine. Like, what do you say too?
Did you really believe you were fine though?
I probably did believe it. Yeah. Because I think it took, because we have all the stuff, we all have our childhood issues that we live with. And I thought I had the best childhood. I'm like, oh, nothing was wrong with me until I put myself through a 35-day treatment facility for PTSD and trauma in Utah. And it was called Deer Hollow. And once I was there, I realized, yeah, all these traumas, we all have trauma, from childhood. No one had a perfect family. And so those really started, and then they start coming out later on in life. And then you add on as a law enforcement, a firefighter, a veteran, it doesn't matter really what your job is, it just compounds it over and over and over. And you do believe, yeah, no, I'm fine. Nothing wrong with me. You're supposed to be stoic. You're a police officer. You're here to fix everybody else's problem, because that was easy for us. I can go fix your problem, no problem. And I look at it going, really, you couldn't do that yourself? But then when I finally looked in the mirror, and I'm like, you know what, Chris? You have a lot of issues that you aren't working on, you're not dealing with. And so once it comes full circle, it's an amazing journey.
Well, what's the danger of a cop not getting help other than suicide?
Well, it comes out in different ways. The anger that's displayed. You've seen the videos of cops going off. The first thing I think in my mind is, I don't think, gosh, what a prick. I think, man, he's got some issues that he or she, that they're not dealing with. And what it is it's almost like those demons that you deal with out on the road are affecting the angels inside of you. There's conflict inside of you, right? Because you're dealing with evil over and over again, and it does start to impact you. And you and I had a conversation about vibration and frequency, right? And you are who you hang around. Well, if you're hanging around criminals and you're dealing with evil all the time, you don't think that some of that's going to start wearing off and affect you? Absolutely it is.
Mm-hmm.
And
definitely change your frequencies.
100%. And Chris and I were kind of the poster child for PTSD, because like he said, we're doing the gambling and all that kind of stuff. We got called in the chief's office. Our chief was like, hey, listen, boys, you guys are a little rowdy out on the town here from what I'm hearing. And, he had to sit down with us as a coach. I call him my coach now, and he's like a brother to us now. And he admitted, hey, I should have done more to protect you guys. I didn't understand about PTSD and really what was going on. Well, we don't have any angst towards him, because we didn't either. We didn't know. We figured it out way late in the game. I did 23 years, and you did 20?
Over 20 years. Yeah. The other thing that I learned too on like symptoms and how do you maybe understand, like for those who are listening, if you don't know, is I look back now and I was not the easiest to supervise, and I look back now, back then I'm like, it's not me, it's my supervisor, that's the problem. But I look back now, it was all the undiagnosed trauma that I was going through. And it was just one of my ways of being, I don't want to say disrespectful, but like if my boss told me to do something, I'm like, nah, screw you. I'm not doing it. If you ask me to do something, I'll bend over backwards for you. And so I look back now, and it's one of the things I love when I go and I train, we do our training at PDs and fire department stuff, is I say, yeah, I kind of was probably an asshole, hard to supervise. And that's one of the things too, is figuring out yourself. Look at all the little things that are changing in your life. Are you having issues with your relationship? Are you having issues with your kids? Are you not talking to your friends anymore? Like we both went a long time without calling any friends. Like I wouldn't meet with anybody. I'd be a hermit.
What would you be thinking?
Really nothing. I think I was just brain dead. I just wanted to be numb, so I would drink, I would do whatever, and then I got on PTSD, stuff like that. And they put me on meds, and then I finally got off those meds because literally that made me be comatose. It worked. I had no feeling for anything.
Yeah. And that's actually the worst. I did the TMS, magnetic stimulation, where they
glad I
send
didn't do that because I hear
things in your,
stories.
and it was like being on medication. I've never felt this way before, but I couldn't feel sad and I couldn't feel happy. I felt neutral. And let me tell you, I'd rather feel sad than neutral. That was a horrible feeling. So for me, that wasn't the right choice for me to do. And I finished out the session, but I don't feel it really helped a whole lot. What really helped me was EMDR, and then a modality for healing called IFS, internal family system, meaning we all have different parts inside of us. And we see that with females, like someone messes with their kid, mama bear shows up. We call it mama bear, right? So once you start to realize you have different parts that come out inside of you, and you can check in with yourself and get that self-awareness and go, well, who's showing up today, right? So when Chris gave the example about how he was difficult to supervise, well, I witnessed it because we were beat partners and school resource officer, partners together, right? I would see that rebellious 16-year-old come to the surface there. And it was all, his language would even change. And you'll see that with sexual assault victims that had trauma, like a 9-year-old that's now, 20. You start talking to her about her traumas. Oftentimes they will revert back to that 9-year-old girl and that voice will come out. That's that part of her, that little victim 9-year-old. And so once you start learning about psychology and how it can really help you, I'm going to be transparent with you. I thought psychology was a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bunch of psychobabble, heal your inner wounded child or whatever. They said, we had no clue. We literally had no clue. Then I made the mistake of trying to go to therapy, but not knowing how to pick a therapist out. So Brad, I was going to these like marriage counselors, right? That would work on my communication skills and things. But I would sit there and talk about my trauma over and over and over again, not realizing that I was making it worse by doing that because I wasn't doing any of those 2 modalities that I told you about, the EMDR and the IFS thing with that. So you can actually make your PTSD worse because what you focus on grows.
I keep trying to tell people that too. And it's unfortunate because when you're in law enforcement or some career like that, or fire, whatever, first responder, let's say, paramedics, those are first responders.
Yeah.
You're seeing people's guts and freaking head crushes and people doing shit to little kids. And like, you think, it's just part of the job. And next thing you know, you're like thinking differently and you don't even realize it affects you.
Oh, 100%. Tried doing CPR on someone and they didn't live and their whole family's standing around and you're their only hope and they don't make it. And you go home at night and try to go to sleep at night. You can't. It doesn't feel good. You don't feel like sleeping. You just feel icky inside. You feel horrible. You wish you could have done something else. You wish you could have saved that life. And it's just it's a big thing to do year after year, day after day. It starts to compound and add up.
So out of all the first responders that are out there operational, what percentage do you think are getting affected by it and they just don't know it?
Okay, give a percentage. You give a percentage and I'll give mine.
Right now, first responders are listening because I know some do. Oh, and they're like, dude, what are these guys? A bunch of fucking pussies? Like,
yep.
How many do you think are affected that just hasn't manifested yet?
I would honestly probably say 75%. I mean, that might even be low because
3 out of 4.
I think he's low. I think it's dependent on how long you've been in the field. I'm going to go out and say if you have 7 years on or more, I think 85%. Yeah, 85%.
So, but if they can't feel it, like in other words, they don't consciously know it, what should they do? Is there like a pre-treatment or a?
Well, here, the thing is you want to go seek a psychologist right away and start talking about these traumatic things because it's not normal for a person to be okay seeing death on a regular basis. Like that's going to get you number one. And then they also say that, I guess what I want to say is
a lot of these veterans come back
100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brain. Well, and we as first responders, we don't want to agree that there's something wrong with us. So that's the biggest thing is that hurdle is just accepting, that the trauma that you see, that you smell, that you touch, that you taste, everything, it takes a toll on us. And you have to admit it to yourself before you can get any help.
Yeah. If you're gambling excessively, you're starting to drink more than you did, you're becoming depressed, you're not doing the things you used to do that were fun. You're not, doing the fun things because you have to have time off work and you have to enjoy life too, right? You're not doing those things. Listen to your spouse or loved ones. Your family will be the first to tell you. Your kids, they'll push your buttons. You'll snap more than you normally would. That's a sign right there. In the car, are you road raging? That's another thing. Yeah. I mean, and that's
or even on the job,
or even on the job. Oh, 100%.
Pissed off over the littlest things.
100%. Well, it's those little, it's like a cedar sliver. It's not the most painful thing, but it's annoying. It's irritating. Yeah. That's what it's like walking around with PTSD, right? Now you're at work and someone says something to you and instead of letting it be like a dirty bomb, you bite and you pop off on them, right? And that's the videos that you see. The extra aggressiveness, in my opinion, is from a lot of officers that have
undiagnosed PTSD.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that get viewed that that demonizes police because they make a mistake, which if you look at it, a lot of those things are very wrong ways to handle the situations that these guys and girls do. However, let's look back a little further. Let's say, hey, why is this person doing this? Why are we not getting these first responders the help prior to? Because like one of the things that we train is, we were trained every day on SWAT, every day to win the fight, go home alive, and you survive. Well, we were never taught, what do you do after you survive? Mm-hmm. So we were always taught, you win the fight. And so we were all proud of that. But then, we learned the hard way that, okay, what happens after you win these fights? Day after day after day, those demons keep growing and you don't know how to do it. So like now I go out there, I wish we would get into the academies and start talking about the stuff that, we were always heard, hey, these guys have gotten shootings and they talked about surviving. But nothing in the academy said, okay, hey, here's what's going to happen after you survive the shooting. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I want to get these guys into counseling before they graduate the academy. I don't care if you talk about football. I don't care if you talk about anything. Just get connected with a counselor. So when that shit does hit the fan, you're comfortable with that person and you can go, hey, now I can open up and I can be vulnerable.
Yeah, you see some cop shows sometimes, and after a shooting, they'll say, hey, you have to see the counselor. And the cop's always like, I don't need to see the counselor. Yep. Like, I'm fine. Trust me, I'm fine.
Yep, I'm fine.
I'm fine.
I'm fine. And we all said that.
But as I'm watching those shows, I'm siding with the cop. Like, I guess if you're tough, you ain't got to be worried about it.
Yeah, well, eventually you can be tough, but eventually it catches up to you. And that's another thing that happened to Chris and I. We stuffed it away for years and years and years. And eventually it comes out because eventually there's one person you can't lie to. That's the person looking back in the mirror, right? And eventually you start looking at yourself and you're angry inside and you have this angst going on and you're not getting along with your spouse or your kids or your coworkers. And pretty soon you're just not feeling good about yourself, right? And then you have to look at yourself in the mirror, and that's tough because you can't lie. You can try to lie to yourself, but what's going on inside, right? And a lot of these first responders, much like myself, we didn't realize that PTSD can take a decade to surface due to the resiliency of the first responders. A lot of us, like Chris and I both said, well, we signed up for this. This is what we signed up for, ask and you shall receive. This is what you get. Not realizing that we could have found some balance in there too along the way.
Why don't because I know it's mandatory to do a background check and a psych check. Mm-hmm. I know that I told you I was going to be a cop once.
Yeah.
And there's questions that they ask you, and there's psych evals that they give you.
Yeah.
Why don't they continue those on a regular basis for police officers?
That's a good question. They really should.
Yeah, it is good. Well, unions get involved.
Yeah. I mean, like you got to get recertified as all these other professions. Like a cop gets their badge, done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, okay, dude, I want to check a cop's psychological,
absolutely, 100%
condition on a regular basis, especially a cop.
100%.
Like firefighter, they see some shit too, but like cops, I would imagine see way more nasty shit than firefighters.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, because you're dealing with sexual assaults and dealing with very bad beatings and then shootings and then pursuits and then.
And if you're on SWAT, dude, they don't call SWAT for traffic stops.
No.
They call SWAT when there's some shit going down.
Yeah, exactly. And
why don't they just psych eval SWAT? So you guys never had to go through any mandatory evaluations?
No, and in fact, that's part of the reason why we started this nonprofit. We got tired of going to training. It was mandatory refresher training every year, right? And there was a program called Target Zero. And the goal was 0 officer deaths for a year, right? Target zero. So they taught us about, when you clear the intersection, make sure your sirens are going, this, that, and the other. But they didn't talk about the number one way that we're losing our first responders is by suicide. And they left that out. And that's how Chris and I started this, because I was like, that was some BS training. They're telling us to watch our six, and 360 awareness and all this kind of stuff, and make sure
common sense shit.
Common sense. Yes. But they're not talking about the number one way we're losing our first responders. And so he and I were like, well, let's have a conversation, right? Because all change takes place with a conversation first. It all starts with a conversation, right? So
I would disagree. I'd say it starts with a thought.
And sure, okay, that's fair.
Everything starts with thought.
I guess it was the action. You got to have the action after that thought is kind of what I focus on, right? You have this thought. So he and I started talking, right? And we said, hey, well, let's start talking about it. And we were laughed at first. We were criticized heavily. We were laughed at.
Who was laughing?
Coworkers, our peers, our own peers.
Because again, I'm putting myself in your guys' position. I'd be thinking, this don't affect me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it ain't my fault. Like, fuck, it ain't my fault that dude got shot. Mm-hmm. Oh, look, his freaking head's blown apart. Yeah, that is gross, but doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
Well, you don't think it does, but deep down, that image is there now.
Forever.
And it's not going away.
That's right.
And you don't think anything at first. You think, I'm tough, dude. That's fucking no big deal.
Yeah.
But it is.
It is a big deal.
And it could be a big deal for your family, your kids, other people too. Because again, people think suicide only affects the person that killed themselves.
Right.
Dude, a suicide affects a lot of people.
A lot of people. And I'm glad that we both came to that conclusion, because we were both that close.
You guys literally had thoughts of ending it.
Oh yeah.
I had a gun to my head.
Oh, yeah. And then
for what?
I was just ready to go. I couldn't handle everything.
Well, no.
My marriage wasn't really working that well at the time. I've been married 30 years, and because of all the stuff that I suppressed and just being stupid, and then all the images in my head and the nightmares and all that, I go, you know what? I tried to use the same way out, like most people say, is that, well, I just want the pain to stop, and this is my way of doing it. And thank God I didn't. And we're both here to share our stories and talk about it and show there is hope for everyone out there.
Well, go ahead, Brad. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you don't mind me jumping in, because I know you so well, part of the reason why he got to that level too was he had a lot of guilt and shame over the tragedy that took place at Marysville-Pilchuck High School, where he lost 5 of his kids. And
5 of your kids, or the kids?
The kids there. We call them our kids because you're the shepherd there, man. That's your flock, man. You protect them at all costs, But we timed it. I tried to make him feel better about his response time. He was there within 26 seconds, roughly 26 seconds in the cafeteria. It was already over at that point in time. But
would somebody just come in and start shooting?
No, it was a murder-suicide. So it was one of my own students who he did it. Who we knew the family. We know the family. My wife went to school with his dad. Great kid, and all this, and just that was his only way out, unfortunately. So he called his friends to the table and just stood up and executed him. And then, in fact, one of my teachers, see, I use my, because when you're the SRO at the school, you're responsible for everyone's safety, the staff, everybody. And I just remember, she was there. She actually tried to reach and take the gun from him, and he ended up shooting himself right in front of her too. So it's like, first responders.
So a teacher, I was going to say, teacher can have PTSD.
Oh, she does. We met with her afterwards. She was shaking, and you said she got help now. Yeah. But for a while she hadn't seen a psychologist, and Chris and I were kind of worried, because it was.
Do you go through something like you felt like it's your fault? Because again, 23 seconds, dude, you were there fucking lightning quick. You can't stop the kid from doing it.
It was my fault in my head, and I still struggle with that, because one of the things is, I was always in the cafeteria at lunchtime. Just this day I wasn't, because I had to go to the security office for a parking lot collision. And that's what we share. I don't remember if this student was a female or a male student. I just remember going in there, and then when the fire alarm went off, that's when it all kicked off.
Yeah, so he had a lot of guilt and shame over that, and he would. So when we travel together, even every now and then, he'll still talk to the kids that he lost in his sleep. I'll wake up to him talking to the kids. So it's still there. It's hard when that's your area of responsibility. You take a lot of pride in what you do. That's your role and responsibility, and to have that happen on your watch sucks, man. It's just
so how does the counseling what process undoes that?
Well, I don't think anything undoes it. What it does, it allows you to accept what happened, like what radical acceptance, bad things happen to good people. And so through all my counseling, and then when I went through Deer Hollow, my counselor, Matt, was amazing because, it's going to get me right here. So one of the things that we did, they said, let's work on your biggest trauma. And obviously my biggest one right now was the school shooting. And so what he did is, what's it called? Psychodrama. And so
you got to relive it.
Yeah. So they went in there. He said, okay, I want you to give each one of the kids. So grab someone in this counseling, and you're going to name each one of them, and you're going to lay them down in the cafeteria where they were laying down. And so what he did is he had me go in there and I was like, okay, you. And he goes, no. You walk over and you grab each one. And you say, hey, you're so-and-so, you lay here. And then he goes, I want you to go down and sit on that floor and talk to those kids and say what you want to do. So it gave me a chance to say what I didn't get to say that day, if that makes sense.
Sure it does.
So
I think anybody would be traumatized by witnessing that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't, again, I haven't been there, so I'm just assuming. I wouldn't take on the guilt though. I don't think. Why? Well, because dude, what could you do? I mean, had you been in the room, you probably couldn't have done anything. You would have heard bang, 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 looked over and it already happened. Like, dude, you were there in 26 seconds.
Yeah.
Look at this other shooting I saw on the news where the cops weren't going in and the guy's in there shooting.
Oh, I know.
And dude, wasn't it a civilian that said, fuck this and went in and fucking killed him? I
think he took a shotgun. He got a shotgun, right? Are you talking about that one where he was getting his hair cut?
Where the cops weren't going in.
Well, the worst one.
It's like, what in the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. The worst one
was, I would feel guilty for.
Yeah. The Florida one where the school resource officer stayed outside. Claimed
whoever was there with the gun and law enforcement knows it's going on, and whether they were told to stand down or whatever, the cops didn't go in for like a while.
Yeah.
Now, if I were a cop doing that, I'd feel fucking guilt and shame.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't feel guilt and shame if I couldn't do anything about it. I'd still be traumatized.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'd take on that guilt. I didn't do it. It wasn't my fault. Mm-hmm. It was unfortunately a fucking tragic thing. And you were there fucking 23 seconds, dude. How fast could you have been there?
Yeah.
2 seconds? Right. Well, if I didn't go out here, if you wouldn't have went out there, you'd have been in there and you'd have heard bang and you'd have turned around and it still would have been over.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'd say too. And I don't think it would have happened this way, but what went through my head also is, okay, what if you would have been in there, not expecting this? Maybe I was the first to go, because hey, well, if you want to,
if I were him, I'd have shot you first.
I got to take out the other guy who has a gun. So
yeah.
How old was the kid that shot everybody?
They were all 14.
Yeah. So he's smart enough to know I better take out the cop that's there every fucking day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So why do you feel like it was your fault?
I just think it's something that we as cops, we bear a lot of responsibility because you're there to protect and to keep calm and civility and all that at your area, no matter what the scene is. You're in charge. So you're in charge of all these people. So I really took it to heart as the school was mine. They were all my people to protect and keep safe. And so it felt like I just let them down because I wasn't there. Now, like I said, after years, this October 24th is a 10-year anniversary. And so it's taken many, many years, which is still, when we do our presentations, I mean, I still, we both break down when we talk about our trauma and I speak about it. And, but I think it's just the bearing the responsibility because you are supposed to be everyone's protector when you're there. And so it has taken, like I said, years of therapy. I don't hold on to as much as I used to. I mean, back in the day, I would cry every day, different things. And, but I've learned to accept that, it's not your fault. There is nothing you could do. It's a long process.
So you had traumatic shit.
Yeah. So I was in a shooting. It was a hostage suicide. He was going to do the suicide by cop is what he wanted to do. And he did. He came out with his SKS and shot at us and a round went over my head. And so that was my first introduction really to having kind of flashbacks because I could hear that round going over my head all the time. And then I couldn't get the sight off of what took place after my round hit his body. That image will never leave my mind. And then I would try to push it away. And the more you try to push it away, it wouldn't go away. And I'd be watching a movie or an action movie or something, and it would trigger me. And, and then
did you feel guilt for shooting them?
No.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I feel zero fucking guilt.
In fact, no, you try to take my life. Oh no, we're going together. If you get the drop on me, I'm taking you with me is my attitude. Right. And
like sometimes I think, if someone broke in my house, I'm like, I fucking dare someone to. Mm-hmm. It's almost like I want them to. Right? Yeah. But when you get in that situation, it ain't what you thought it was.
No.
I've heard of people, all tough and shit. And then they get in a situation and they're shaking. They can't even fucking pull the trigger. They're just like froze.
So he came out 3 times with the gun, the SKS rifle underneath his chin. And my heart rate was just pumping. And I had to do that. I call it sniper's breath, the breath work kind of stuff. Right. And so, and I was set up there for a long time. So, when he did come out and he started shooting, I was ready. However, he knew where I was at, and his rounds would go right through my vest. I didn't have my heavy tack vest on at the time. In fact, I even went up to the door with a shield that wouldn't have stopped his rounds. We didn't know what kind of, he was to deliver a throw phone. We didn't know his rounds. We didn't know he had an SKS rifle at the time. We didn't have that intel at the time. But when that round went over my head, it was kind of a wake up call for me too. Like, hey, life can be real short. Right. And then, first day back, I was off work while they reviewed it. Came back to work, almost shot a guy. My first day back to work, 5 minutes left of my shift. Suicidal male standing in the backyard with a Beretta 92 FS 9mm pistol, and he said he wanted to kill himself. And it's my first call. It's my first day back after the shooting, and I go to the backyard. I got a cover unit. I go to the backyard and I'm telling him, drop the gun. Come on, man. Don't do this. We can get you help, kind of thing. Right. He takes the gun, and instead of just like you and I would just drop the gun, because there's an officer that has front sight right on my head, kind of thing. He takes it and he goes like this with the gun, like he's raising it up. I saw the hammer come back on my SIG 40, and it was, 12 and a half pounds of pull on the first pull. I'm telling you, I pulled all 12 pounds. That hammer was getting ready to drop, and I was going to take another life. And the first thing I thought, great, my first day back to work. Now I'm going to get in another shooting. Turned out that was an airsoft gun. I never saw the orange tip of that gun. But what I did was I went home and I acted like everything was fine. I drove home. I had a take home car. I had all my SWAT gear in the back. I sat on the edge of my bed, fell asleep with all my gear on, woke up the next morning still in my uniform, and made it to work. I was late, but I was already dressed, so made it to work, walked in like everything was totally fine. I was shaking afterwards, like you talked about. I got kudos and accolades. Woody, you weren't going to hesitate one bit. And I wasn't. However, when it's all said and done, those nerves are still going and everything. And that's when I realized I crashed out. I was just tired. Anxiety.
That's your body trying to release that shit.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I had no clue. In fact, Chris and I, we're not afraid to share that we've each had panic attacks. I had one, before I got help for PTSD. I felt like I was dying, and I got to be real with you. I would go on calls where somebody was having a panic attack, and I was kind of calloused towards them. I'd be like, just focus on your breathing. You're going to be fine. Suck it up. Yeah, no, really. I couldn't find my phone to call 911, and I'm out on my hands and knees. I had to pull over, because I started losing my vision and everything. And that's when I realized what I'm doing isn't working. Trying to numb the pain, with alcohol and my sense of humor, it's not working anymore. What I'm doing isn't working. My body's going into shutdown. And when you have a panic attack, that's what your body is doing. It's like a computer. Your brain can only take so much. It's like a sponge, right? You start overloading your brain with a bunch of trauma. It's like a sponge. It can only absorb so much, and it starts pouring out now. And that's what happens when you have a panic attack. Shortly after the shooting, I was in a fight for life with a guy that was on cocaine, meth, and heroin, dressed in women's underwear, nails painted up. When I got there, it's the first time I've heard sheriff's deputies screaming into the radio for help. And it's the first time I've actually heard a grown man actually scream for help, high-pitched scream. I mean, it was just guttural, and you run code there, and he's already been pepper sprayed, and it was a knockdown, drag-out fight. And what ended up happening is it was a domestic violence call. He had beat up his mom. We didn't know it at the time, but he's on cocaine, meth, and heroin. It was a knockdown, drag-out fight, and he's grabbing my gun, tried to pull it out of the holster. None of the moves that I was doing was working on him. I had trained jiu-jitsu, so I was able to keep positioning on him, but ankle locks and things didn't work on him. He just had this tremendous amount of strength and high pain tolerance. And we ended up fighting for so long and hard that his heart ended up exploding, is what happened from the cocaine, meth, and heroin that he had ingested, and then the fight. And when he was tugging on my gun, I remembered what they said in the academy, and I thought for sure that day I was going to die.
Well, you didn't. That's a good thing.
I thought about my kids, all the things that I didn't focus on that I deemed not important because I was a workaholic. That was a thing I used to do, just work and help everybody else out. That way I can be the rescuer and go help everybody else out with their problems. That was so easy to do. The difficult thing was for me to just kind of say, hey, listen, you got to work on you now, Yeah. And that's where the real journey began. Cause anybody can point the finger, that's the easy thing to do. We can all be critical of other people, right? It's when you look inward, it's where the real challenge starts. And that's what it was for me.
So if people are listening that are in law enforcement or first responder, or anybody, even teachers for that matter, but anybody that's like feeling this way, you keep saying Deer Hollow.
Yeah. So we went to the treatment place called Deer Hollow in Utah.
Is that the one where you'd tell them to go?
Yes.
That's where we send people because it is a professional place and it saved both of our lives. So obviously it's important to us. And we've had a couple places that will fly us and check out their facility because we're not going to send someone anywhere unless we can vouch for it because we put our names, our name is with who we send to these places. And so now that's one of our only places, so we'll get places to call us up and, if we have the money, we'll try it, but we really try to focus there because, we know what they do. We know where their heart is. We know what they do for first responders, for others.
How big is it?
When we went through, there was only one house. Now it's 3 houses. In fact, my nephew just, I got him in last week. So he's there from childhood. So I send my own family to this place.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
If you guys went through it, you're what they call the product of the product.
Well, here's why I don't criticize people, because our lives were saved by 2 former addicts who started this treatment facility place, and they are amazing people, amazing individuals, and they've been so supportive of Chris and I, and they hold a golf fundraiser tournament for us every year. So supportive of our foundation in Utah. We'll send you an invite for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
What's it called?
It's at Thanksgiving Point in Utah, Sandy, Utah,
Yeah, Thanksgiving Point. There's
Point.
Tomorrow I'm going to Nashville to do a fundraiser golf tournament with Jason Aldean, Brittany Aldean.
Fantastic.
They put it on for a buddy of mine's Sentinel Foundation, which basically is child trafficking.
Oh yeah,
like that. I can't believe no one talks about that either.
Oh, it's disgusting.
Like it's unbelievable that like all the children that go missing, and like, no one even talks about it.
300,
like, dude, where the fuck are they going?
328,000 right now makes me sick. It's absolutely disgusting what's going on right now in America. It's absolutely uncalled for.
And it's unbelievable that more people don't like do something.
Well, when it doesn't affect it, see, that's one thing that we also learned too, is if it doesn't affect you personally, you're not going to really care.
Some people.
It's like a lot of time. Most people. It's just like the same thing. Like when we would, arrest these people for whatever it is, DUI or a bad, homicide or something like that. And, a lot of these judges are like letting these people out. And I'm like, when I'm early in my career, I used to wish, hey, you need something to happen to you because then you'll understand, you're letting these people in and out like a door, a revolving door. Those of us that suffered some of this stuff personally, we take it personally. And so when you watch these things happen, that's what I always think is like, until it happens to you, a lot of people just brush it off.
Well, sometimes it's just the law. They can't help it. Like the law says you got to let them go. You got to let them go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I wish sometimes that there was such a thing as legal vigilantism.
Right.
But then
I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed after the shit I've seen. I mean, I'm starting to think that maybe that's not such a bad thing.
Well, again, I mean, I watch a lot of cop shows, when the person kills the bad guy and they're like, freaking, should let him go for that. Yeah, I agree. Like, I think if you get caught messing with kids in any way,
Yeah.
First thing you should do is get put in a locked room with their family.
Yeah.
If their family doesn't want to do anything, well, then just citizens, concerned citizens, lock them in a room with that. And then when you get done with that, then you're going to court.
Yeah. And then in jail, they don't they don't take kindly to those
They
type
sure
of people.
don't. And again, I mean, like that tells you right there. Like,
Yeah.
Like go fuck with kids and go to prison and see
Yeah.
what happens to you. Like prison's probably the place you should go
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah, agreed.
But the law says, and it's like, come on, guys. But you got to have law and order.
Yeah.
So what do you guys feel about like the cop hating? I don't think personally, I don't see it as much as I did a couple years ago, but like there was a lot of media talking about, cops are shooting everybody and doing all this shit.
Yeah.
Like, what do you guys think of that?
Well,
You think that's PTSD or you think it's bullshit?
no, I think it's a combination. I don't think you can keep it as black and white. I think it's I watched
like every cop.
Right.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
No, it's not every cop.
Like you
And
get
the
pulled over by the
stats.
cop.
No,
Like, you know what I consider a panic attack? When you see a fucking cop behind you.
Yeah. Right.
Dude, I'm serious. Like even to this day, and I haven't broke the fucking law since like 94. And I drive, and if a cop pulls behind me, I go, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
I don't like
My
it.
gut drops, and I'm
Yeah.
not. There's nothing wrong,
Right.
Yeah.
But a cop behind me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and a lot of people feel that way because every time I say that, people
100%.
laugh.
Yeah.
Why do cops instill fear when they're supposed to instill safety?
Yeah.
Not cops do it, but people feel that way.
Media.
Feeds into it. A lot of the shootings, I'll look at videos. I bite just because I'm curious, the videos. A lot of it is a training issue. Finger needs to be off the trigger, kind of stupid shit like that. That's one. Two, when you're not used to dealing with a bunch of scenarios like that, you get too jacked up and your thought process starts to go away. So too much adrenaline, right? And it's basically what it boils down to. It's a training issue is what I see most of the time, because we have trainings that you could do now with your gun, but paintball bullets in them, so no one's getting killed, right? But a lot of departments got away from training to save money. I say this: you pay now or you pay later. For a civil lawsuit.
It's probably why they don't do psych evals. Probably costs too much.
Well, I tell you, right? Yeah, you're not lying.
There's a lot of guys walking around that are working that carrying a gun right now that have PTSD. They don't understand it,
and no one knows it.
Yeah,
right.
Well, when you left, we were the first. I think I was. Yeah, we were one of the first to leave with PTSD from our department.
Yeah,
and I had this supervisor come to me and he said, "I'm really glad, Woody, that you did what you did and that you kind of paved the way, you and Chris." I said, "Why is that?" And he said, "Well, because what you don't know is I had my patrol car pulled over on the side of the road. I unholstered my duty weapon and I had it to my head and I was going to end my life." And he said, "Then I saw what you and Chris did and how you guys healed and came back from that. It gave me hope, gave me inspiration." That's what it's about right there. That's what it is. It's being a lighthouse for other people, saying, "Hey, there is hope. There is help out there. You don't have to feel this way."
So what caused you guys to realize that this was the issue and get to that place?
Well, I'll go first. I had a guy that was on SWAT that went through that treatment facility place meet with me. And he said, "Hey, Woody, I think this would be a good place for you." Hint, hint, wink, wink. And when a friend like that comes to you, you listen. All right. Because I was like, "Whoa, really?" I was like, "Why do you say that?" And he goes, "Well, you're running and gunning all the time and you're living here at work and you're drinking and you're partying it up and and I see the way you are and I see it now because I went to treatment and I know what PTSD looks like now and you definitely have it and I think you'd benefit from it." And that's what did it for me. I was like, whoa, because I wasn't sleeping regularly. I was having flashbacks and nightmares and I wasn't handling stress very well. And I do. Nothing really gets to me, but everything was getting to me. I started hating people in general. I mean, social media, I couldn't get on social media because everybody was fraudulent. They're all fake. Today's not your best day of your life. You're full of shit, kind of thing. I started being overly critical of everybody too, including myself.
So that guy recognized in you what they saw.
Yeah.
What caused you to do it?
I was, so I graduated from the high school that I had my school shooting at. So I met my wife at this school. So I'm very ingrained in that school. So it means a lot to me. And when I played basketball there, one of the guys who I played with, he was the head basketball coach when I got the SRO job, school resource officer. And so I said, "Hey, I want to coach, I want to volunteer my time because I want to be all inclusive with this whole school, not just a cop on campus." And so after a few years, after the shooting happened, we would go on our trips with the boys, and retreats and stuff like that. And this one I was in, I can't remember what it is. What's that place in old military place in Whidbey or something. Anyway, we were there on
Whidbey Island, Washington.
Yeah.
I filmed a movie.
You know the old
there
fortress
once.
kind of have there?
I did.
Wow, I'm scared to ask what kind of movie, Brad. What are you doing up there?
Movie. It was. I used to always want to be a movie star. Grew up, got an audition, got a starring role in a movie.
Oh.
It was called, well, they were going to call it Indian Summer. Ended up being called Dixie Lanes, but it filmed on Whidbey Island, Washington. It was Hoyt Axton, Tina Louise, Karen Black, Ruth Buzzy, Mel Tillis, and I was supposed to play a character named Chris Laidlaw, and I was like technically the starring role, and the producer's son got out of a drug rehab, and so as a reward he gave him my part. Well, the writer who wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, his name was Don Cato and Ken Kesey, they wrote me a beginning and an end, and the movie became a dream sequence, but they filmed it all in Whidbey Island, Washington, so I was up there for like 2 or 3 weeks filming that movie.
It's the truth. Crazy. That's crazy. No,
it's a small world.
Yeah, it's a real small world.
Whidbey Island.
Yeah, Whidbey Island.
It's a small world.
So you guys were running around as cops, and I was probably on that fucking island, and you guys were walking around in a fucking cop, and I didn't even know it. Because you were always SWAT. You had to earn SWAT.
Yeah.
So you were regular cops at first.
Patrol. You
In fact, I was a state trooper my first 7 years in Washington.
So you might have pulled me over.
So
you were a wasp.
If you were in Everett, Marysville, Snohomish County, that's where I worked.
Oh, I was in King County.
Yeah.
I remember King County.
Old Trooper Sutherland.
I think I went to King County Jail or some shit like that.
That's legit.
Yeah.
So your friend recognized it in you.
So I was on a retreat, and I don't remember what went through my head, but I was at that point, you know, when Woody was talking about, you know, our brains can only handle so much, and then it just starts to overflow. And I think that's what got to me, is trying to suppress all the images and the feelings that I was going through. And I just had this one moment. I'm like, screw this, man. I don't want to be here anymore. This is too much. My family had no idea that I was even struggling, because I wouldn't share anything. Like, I wouldn't talk to them about calls, because they say, hey, what's going on at work? And I was like, I thought that was a boring day. You know,
I'm fine.
Yeah. And so that became,
I do that now.
Yeah.
When I get home, she's like, how's work? I'm like, great.
Yeah. Well, for me, thankfully, you know, I was at that point. I said, I'm not going to do this. Well, our mutual friend, I made a phone call. And so I'm thankful that I made the initiative. And I said, hey, I can now see this in myself. And he goes, hey, I can get you on a plane tomorrow. And I said, this was like a Thursday. And I went, well, let me call you back. I hung up the phone, and then again, I go, you're really not that bad, Chris. I don't think you need to go to treatment. And then, as soon as I hung up, about 10 seconds later, I'm a procrastinator. And if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. And I was able to realize that in myself too. And so I called him right back, and I said, hey, I can't go right now. I still have to go home. I got to talk to my wife and let her know what's going on. She has no idea what's going on. And so that was a Thursday or Friday. Went home Saturday, Sunday, got my stuff ready, and I was on a plane Monday.
Well, that's one of the reasons I was happy you guys were coming, only because, dude, your story of, you know, how you got there is someone recognized. So like, I'm hoping like you guys are going to be the reason a bunch of people that listen to this podcast might end up there.
Yeah.
Whether they're law enforcement or just civilians. Like, dude, if you guys are depressed and you're thinking of suicide, like, to me, dude, that means you have an issue.
100%.
A lot of people say, well, everyone's suicidal at some point. Again, I mean, yeah, maybe a glimpse and a quick, but like not when it's constant.
Right. Well, you can have the thought. It's normal. You can't really control every thought that comes in your brain, right? So you can have the thought of suicide, right? It's when you start grabbing the gun and it's in your hand. Now you've taken a step towards it. And Chris and I, we used to, after we'd finished one of our presentations, because we were always just keeping it real with the audience and everything. And the chaplains afterwards would come over and, Woody, can I pray with you? Yeah, absolutely. 100% you can. And you know what you need is, you just need Jesus. And I said, well, I have Jesus, and I'm really excited to meet him. And I want to go upstairs where the streets are paved with gold. And I said, just so you know, because of that knowledge that I have in my mind, that's where I'm going, why would I want to stay here on this earth and face this pain?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you really knew, why would we fuck around here?
I don't know, man.
The whole world.
Yeah, exactly. And so they look at you though, because they've never been challenged like that before, and they're looking at me.
The answer is because you apparently, if you do that, you don't go there.
I know some chaplains say yes and some say no. So I don't know for sure, but I'm not willing to take the chance. And I know that my work here on earth is not completed yet. It's just not my time to go. It's better to leave it up to that person upstairs when it's my time, not do it myself.
And you know his real name, by the way?
Yeshua.
That's right.
Yeah. In fact, it's in our breath work. It's in our DNA too.
That's right.
Yeah. Every time you breathe.
Well, I'll tell you. Well, that's actually the creator's name.
Yes.
Yahuwah.
Yeah.
Yeshua is the son.
Yeah.
Yahuwah is the creator. Now people say it's one and the same. Again, we'll get into a different podcast about that. But in reality, I'm hoping that people are listening. They're like, I can do that. And then the ones that are like, oh man, that's terrible. You guys started Brothers in Healing at some point.
Yeah.
After you got out, you decided, hey, let's start a nonprofit that helps first responders, deal with this, whether if they can't afford it or what. How do you help them? How does the charity help them?
Yeah. So what we do is Chris and I, we get bookings to go put on mental health training at different places, conferences and things like that, PTSD related, trauma related conferences.
Training or presentations?
Presentations and training.
How do you train them?
So basically you show them what PTSD looks like. We give them techniques during our training thing. We talk about the modalities, the healing modalities that really work.
But you can only be so many places at once. Why don't you have something online that does that?
We need something online. In fact,
well, Lightspeed is what it does there. Like I'll donate the Lightspeed system, and I'll give you guys like $50,000 worth of production if you want it.
Fuck yeah!
And then you can create courses, and it's better than nothing. But if you guys know the content, because again, what's good training, dude? Training, good content. I'm hoping you can bring that.
We'll bring
the editors and the camera and the technology and all
we got
the shit.
We got
that just delivers the good content with repetition, practice accountability. And again, I mean, family members, like if it were me, I would be like, I'm not just going to freaking train the officer or the first responder. Yeah. I'm going to train their family how to recognize this shit.
100%. You just nailed it.
Support them into going. Cause I would imagine some of you guys, you're too fucking cool. You're too tough. You ain't going anywhere.
That's right.
Yeah. Like, fuck, you ain't going to fucking counseling. That's fucking gay shit.
That's what I said.
Well, that's what, like I said, a lot of it is the guilt and the shame. You're like, no, you're a first responder. You don't go to treatment. Treatment's for drug addicts. Treatment's for stuff like that. Like my son, I put him through 17 treatment facilities. And so that's the mentality, is just, it's only for drug addicts, but it's not. That's an aspect of it. That's a part of it. But the deep rooted trauma is really why you need to figure out. And then you hit it on the head on the nail, is the family, because none of us spoke to our families about it. And so getting the word out to know how, because now I know how to talk to my wife about, like, I went back to work after I got out of treatment for about 6-7 months. And then I had another call, and it just put me right back in ground zero. And the psychologist said, you're done. You can't go back to work anymore. And then I learned to go home, and I learned, hey, honey, this is what I saw. I'm not going to go into detail and tell her what it smelled like or all that. I'll say, yeah, I had a child death, or we had whatever like that. So I learned to open up. And so that's the other part that we want to get out to the families of these first responders.
Well, and if I could piggyback off what you said, I realized that during this podcast, we didn't tell you what our rating was from the state of Washington, because they evaluated us. Like, do these guys really have PTSD? They don't want to give you a medical retirement claim for no reason, right? It's got to be legit. Both Chris and I tested a 4 out of 5 for PTSD. 5 is the highest. 5 would be completely bedridden. So the fact that we're even able to go up on a stage and talk about our traumas and be transparent and vulnerable about that is a testament to the healing that's taken place, to have this kind of conversation. And it's so, you mentioned the family, and I want to share a quick story with you. So my daughter, she was my adopted daughter. Her dad passed away from a heart attack. He was out fishing, loading his boat up, and he had a massive heart attack, and he passed away. And I held her in my arms until she had no tears left to cry. And she looked up at me and she said, well, at least I still have you. And I was dealing with all sorts of demons up here, and I was like, man, I got to get my shit together. This little girl needs a father figure, a strong father figure that's stable, right? So anyway, I put myself through treatment, and I learned how to lean into emotions that were difficult for me. Like I tried to solve everybody's problems, and my daughter just wanted me to listen and be able to relate to the emotion that she was sharing. So-and-so backstabbed me at school. My friend turned her back on me, and I would go, well, let's do some push-ups, right? That was the old me. The new me goes, I can relate to that emotion. I've been betrayed too. I'm sorry that happened to you. That's really tough, kind of thing, right? Well, because of our relationship, a year or two ago, I asked her, what would you like for Christmas? And she looked at me and she said, I want you to adopt me. It gets me every time because I was so hard on her. I was the drill sergeant. I didn't want her to be a victim of any kind of sexual assault. So I taught her knife fighting, right? I'd get these helium balloons and I'd put them around her. Here's this little 9-10-year-old going to town with this knife, right? We did jujitsu. I taught her tactics from SWAT tactics, how to defend the home and all this kind of stuff. It was all out of fear, right? But I wasn't prepping her to be that strong, independent woman, you know, that what kind of man is she going to find now? Right. Because I'm that role model. And by changing my way of thinking and being a father, I listened to my daughter, Jada. The judge said, well, young lady, tell me why you want this man to be your father. And I'm telling you, she went on for like 5 minutes and I was like, she's talking about me. Because I got my shit together and because I healed, and we have just an amazing relationship now. And it's just such a gift. You have daughters, I have boys, 2 boys. My daughter, she gets me like, it's different. Do. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So
obviously the program works because now you guys are like out helping other people, traveling around. You got the 501c3 charity. You got side businesses, this salon that you and your wife have.
Yeah, Revelations. We're in Chandler, Arizona. We just opened up Lash and Brow Salon. It's we really care about the quality of our work and we care about people because I don't want to run into you if I put lashes on your wife and they look horrible. That's a really bad feeling. Like, and women are very particular about their lashes and their brows and you know all this kind of stuff.
Some of them need some help.
Well, you know where to come.
Some lashes and brows give me PTSD.
Yeah, and then my wife.
They're so fake. I mean, you clearly see they're fake. It's like, what are you doing? Exactly.
And it's funny because my wife will go, well, show me a photo of what you want first, because, you know, we got to get on the same page here. And, you know, they can be a little atrocious sometimes. But then my wife started her own makeup line. It took her 8 years to do. It's Ascent. You can go to Ascent.com.
Ascent?
Ascent. ASCENT.com. Ascent.
I'll be damned.
Yeah.
You got that?
Yep.
So that's a good URL.
Yeah.
I mean, usually everything's taken, but Ascent?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, we're rise above, right? Yeah, better than the average, right? And so we got that going on. And then Chris and I, you asked a question that I don't think we answered. How do we get money? We get money for our nonprofit. Chris and I don't pay ourselves out of the nonprofit. We give it all back to help other people, right? And how we get our funds is by donations, the golf fundraiser, and then other people can donate. You can go to brothersinhealing.com and there's a donate button. And then also Chris and I, we have the departments that pick us up. They give us a speaker's fee that goes into our nonprofit. And then we just use that money to help other people.
Speaker's fee. There's people listening to this podcast. You guys putting on events that are listening, you know, hire these dudes to come speak.
100%. We always keep it real. The emotion is just real, raw, and relevant. We don't get anywhere by sugarcoating, and nobody really wants that anymore. There's enough fake shit going on in this world right now.
People want real. And then also donations, folks. I mean, again, dude, a lot of people think donations. Well, I don't have the money. Dude, everybody's got $20. And if 1 million people gave you $20, that's a help.
100%. And it's going to a good cause. The average cost for us is $2,500 to $5,000 per person. And in the 4 years that we've had this nonprofit, we've helped over 171 people now.
171 is like what they told us.
Is what they told us. Someone was keeping stat. We got these vans, custom vans, and they have little skulls. Every time we saved a soul, we were going to take a Sharpie and black it in. But it was pointless because there were so many people that needed help. Well, we run out of money every year, you know, by choice, because that's how many people we want to help. So it's really cool in a way.
Yeah. Well, let's try to get the listeners, the bomb squad, to send you some more money.
Love it. It's going
you don't take a salary. It goes all to help people.
Yeah. That's right. Exactly.
I was telling you, you should tell the wife, you know, make this one of those charitable products.
Yeah.
Cause you ever heard of Tom's Shoes and the products that like donate?
Yeah.
You buy a pair of shoes, we'll give you a pair of shoes to some shoeless kid in Africa, wherever.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, listen,
there you go.
Buy these cosmetics, because dude, cosmetics, man, I mean, when you formulate cosmetics, it could come out this side a $500 bottle of cream, go out this side, and it ends up Maybelline on that shelf, and it's the same damn cream.
Yeah, exactly.
The same damn factory.
Yeah.
So like if you're gonna buy cosmetics, buy them from this one, Revelations.
Yeah.
It's like Revelations, but lash.
Yep, exactly. Play on words there. And then
Revelations.com.
Yep. exactly. And then Ascent is where you can go get the product there. And my wife has all the lash artist tweezers and top of the line stuff that she got her own. She got branded and did her own research. 8 years.
She should be teaching people how to do the lashes. There's people opening up lash salons everywhere.
Yep.
That's like the new thing.
Exactly. Yep. We're going to start doing that training.
You make a lot of money doing
that.
And then get into your own lashes and your own products.
Exactly.
No, dude, you're a multi-million-dollar freaking lash company.
That's what we got. That's exactly what we got. We're just starting to get our name out there now. So it's really cool.
Well, hopefully
lots of gratitude.
This will help. Like I said, if you guys, are traveling around, that takes time, that takes money. You got to be using some of the money to do some of that. So it's not as good, I don't think, as in person, but it's better than nothing. So the best is in person and virtual training.
Yeah.
Virtual training is literally something like it. And like I said, I'm going to donate like what you would normally write us a check for $50K.
Yeah.
To you guys, to where come here. We'll show you what to do, but basically create an online interactive training and communication platform, community leaderboards. You can talk through it. You can counsel each other through it. You can not only that, but like you start with what you guys know, but pretty soon, there'll be someone else. Well, this begins to grow, and now it doesn't have to be you guys. It can be counselors and psychiatrists, and all they have to do is come film a course to deliver, track, and measure through interactivity. And more importantly, you don't know nothing about this company, but it's an interactive training software where we can create interactivity. So you can ask questions almost if you're in real life. And if, for example, somebody indicates that they're leaning towards, I'm at the end of my rope, dude, it can text you guys in real time and say, hey,
wow,
this person going through just indicated that they're suicidal or thinking of these things. And again, I don't know how to do all that, but hopefully you do, or you have experts. Maybe we can cooperate with Deer Hollow and bring in other people besides you guys. And I'll create this interactive training system.
Love it.
That is for first responders and their family. And it's not to replace, it's to almost probably and you can, again, you want to make money with it too. You can make money with it. Why? Well, because like, for example, you can get sponsors you can put in there. So now all the police officers, that go through it can see, ammo company, whatever, whoever wants to sponsor. So I'll show you guys a way to monetize that as well.
Brad.
That would be amazing.
Brad, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, as you know, I've always wanted to be a cop. So I always like to support the police specifically, but first responders also, because, dude, they're the motherfuckers that show up and deal with the shit nobody wants to deal with. And then nobody fucking turns around and helps them and realizes that their duties are causing all kinds of issues that nobody even recognizes.
Exactly. They're seeing.
And then all we want to do is bitch because the cop's a dick. It's like, fuck, dude, that cop showed up and fucking saved 18 kids before he was a dick to you.
Yeah, exactly. And I watch a lot of videos too, and I can tell when adrenaline kicks up. So a cop is what? COP, citizen on patrol. Just a regular citizen, right? Now you go on a call, traffic, we'll do traffic. Most cops, that's where your shot is, on traffic stops, right? And now they want the cop to be all friendly and jovial. Well, in your mind, you could get shot on this traffic stop. It's hard to be funny and jovial and all these little things, right, that go on. They should. When you get good, you learn to fake it. You could be scared on the inside, but you can fake it on the outside, right? But these people want to be heavily critical of the police, but they've never done the job themselves. And I got so pissed at football players in particular, NFL players, because they should fucking know better. Because the NFL has the best camera systems out there. They cover every angle and they still can't get the calls right. These are pros out there, pro referees, pro players, and there's really bad calls. Well, what do you think goes on at nighttime when you can't see everything and you see this body camera on a police officer? Well, that's one angle. You don't get the whole story off of that either. So that's my little snippet with that goes on, is like when your adrenaline's spiking, it's so hard to be open and friendly and have that nice dialect too, because you really, like Trooper Sutherland over here. Correct. I did one traffic stop on I-5. Fuck that shit. I was like, tickets aren't important to me. I'm not, those semis and cars that fly by at 65 miles an hour, you get tagged by that, it's night. You're taking a dirt nap.
Dude, and there's also cool cops out there. I've been pulled over let go.
Yeah.
I've been pulled over one time. I told you a few DUIs I had. One time I got pulled over with a DUI. The fucking cop said to my girlfriend, "You drive."
Yeah.
Because she wasn't drunk.
Yeah. I've done that.
And he followed us home.
Yeah.
And made sure we got home. He could have arrested me. I was driving when he pulled us over. Yeah. He was cool.
Yeah.
I also got pulled over once and I had a fucking bag of weed because I just come from Oregon, and Oregon has the best weed ever. Washington too. And I moved here and I had ate the weed and he pulled me over and fucking dumped it out on the ground, smeared it in, and he goes, don't do that shit.
Yeah.
Let me go. So there's cool cops. I'm sure there's asshole cops, and then there's fucking dirty cops.
Yeah.
But I would imagine the dirty ones are fewer than the dicks. And the dicks, what people don't realize, there may be a lot of dick cops, but dude, look what they have to deal with.
Exactly.
Right? So again, you want less dick cops, donate so these guys can help you get some training.
And a lot of those dick cops, that's actually a protector. I refer to that modality, IFS, internal family system. That dick cop, that's a protector that's showing up because he's really scared, he or she scared, insecure inside is what you're seeing there. And I see that in cops that kind of flex up and act tough. I've grappled with them. They're lousy. They wouldn't last in a street fight, but they got to flex up, right? They got to.
See, that's another thing, dude. I see a lot of videos where cops are getting in fights, and dude, they don't know how to fight.
Nope.
Right. It's like, don't you guys learn that shit in what do you call it? Police Academy?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It was real cute. Here, go do these Aikido wristy twisty locks that don't work. Yeah, it's real cute. It's real fun. And then the jiu-jitsu guys come in and they just own you. They wipe the floor with you. Like you've never been dominated until you've wrestled someone with jiu-jitsu or pancration, Greco-Roman, same thing. You get one of those beasts. Oh my goodness.
You're done.
You're done. You're just a slab of meat that they're slapping around. I mean, it's pretty bad. So
yeah. And then what about like big, huge, fat cops?
No,
like ridiculous. Dude, I think you should be. There's a physical.
There should be a physical.
Some sort of like, dude. Hey, listen. I understand. You want to be fat. You got out of shape. I understand. You were injured. Whatever.
Yep.
If you want to be in that position, you have to be capable of physically doing something.
1,000%. I've been saying that all along. We say that, and we even took it a step further that if you're an active shooter trainer or you're on SWAT, you know where your ass needs to be? In the schools. That's our soft targets, right? Because you're the one officer that's going to be there for the 5 or 6 minutes. So you better be a badass. You better have your tactics solid because the cavalry's coming. But in 5 minutes, how many kids are going to get killed? So I am a big
20 seconds.
20. Yeah, look what happened at Chris. So I'm a big proponent. If you're on SWAT, long gone are the days where if you're a school resource officer, that's where you go to retire. And that's how it used to be. The guy that couldn't get along with the public, they would throw him in the school. It makes no sense to me, right? They're there to protect kids. You have kids, go to school. Who do you want there? Do you want the regular traffic cop guy that doesn't have a lot of tactics, but he can write a good traffic ticket? Or do you want the SWAT guy that says, hey, even when I run out of ammo, I got a knife on me. I'm going to do you in there. And if you shoot me to where I can't, every round that you have is going to go into me because I'm going to be the best bullet sponge you've ever seen. Yeah. Now, what mentality do you want at the school?
That one.
Exactly. Yeah. That's my point. So
I also think, by the way, kids should get fucking psych evals. That kid needed a psych eval.
100%. 100%. Yep.
But we don't want to be too politically incorrect and offend anybody.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Bullshit.
So a lot of the schools now, they do, what's that, contingency plan before they can come back in after a serious incident, which is great. They have to go meet with the psychologist before the kid can come back in, which I think
or if they make a threat, you'll go through a whole process, so they do have some systems in place now for the schools for these kids, but it's still not the best yet, but there's parts of it that are getting better.
School systems are a whole nother podcast. It's unbelievable.
It's disgusting. Actually.
I took my kids out of school.
Yeah.
And they were in private school, so they fortunately didn't have a lot of kids in their class, but the teacher was getting ready to quit because of the schooling and the shit that's happening today. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. What do they pay you here? She said, X amount of dollars. And I said, well, what if I gave you a little raise and you only have those two to teach? And she said, are you serious? I said, meet your new class. It's my two kids. So I yanked her out of the school and started homeschooling.
Love it.
Yep.
And guess what? People, they're not going to have social skills. Dude, my kids will come in here, get on camera, dance, walk up, shake your hand.
I just met your son out in the lobby here.
He went to school.
Oh, he did? Well,
he's 27.
He's not afraid to look someone in the eye and shake their hand and
no, but dude, I mean, that's a school product.
I see.
And like me, I'm a school product. I didn't even go to private school. I just went to public school. But dude, back in public school, dude, you've gotten fist fights.
Right.
That was about it.
Yeah.
You know, but there was bullying. And guess what? Like bullying kind of toughened me up some.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, bullying could also be like too much. But the whole school system, I think there's a lot of work that needs to be there. It's not going to be a cop on campus. That's one thing. What about, like, again, psych evals and teachers recognizing behavior patterns? If there was teachers that kid would have been trained on, could have told you, hey, that kid's been showing signs of X,
right.
And you could have grabbed that kid, got him help, and that never would have happened either.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's all about, in my mind, you know, training people to recognize patterns. Because like, especially if it's you, if I'm a cop, I'm listening to you guys. If I'm a cop, because you think cops are fucking tough and, you know, macho. Well, dude, I'd be thinking fucking, I don't need to go to counseling. Well, in reality, you may.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing.
It's a gift for people to go. Like I would propose for all law enforcement and firefighters within your first year to go to a 35-day facility. Just, you're going to understand yourself.
Well, who pays for it? Cops don't get paid a bunch.
The insurance, see, that's something you'd have to do, you know, because insurance covers it. You know, we had pretty good insurance, you know, and that covers it. And so if you have to pay a little bit out of pocket, but in the long term, but again, now you're telling people, first responders, that now you have to go do this. And we don't like being told what to do. You know, it's like, if you ask us, we're going to do it. So it's kind of a hard battle to win.
So for people listening that might need help, they already recognize what you're saying and they're like, I can't believe I'm listening to this. I need help. I want help. Who should they call and how do they get a hold of you guys?
Well, they can reach out to us at brothersinhealing.com.
Or DM you.
Yep. Send an email. When you reach out on our website, it'll go to our email. That way I can keep track of everything and what you say too. And so that's key. But if you feel like you need help, the most important thing that you could do is start looking into seeing a psychologist that's skilled in dealing with PTSD. It matters that those little acronyms on the end of their name matter. Don't do like I did and go see a marriage therapist, counselor for PTSD related stuff. It's not the same. Yeah. And it's kind of funny, while we're on this topic, Chris and I, we get all sorts of feedback from other officers, and they'll be like, well, my department doesn't have a psychologist. My department doesn't believe in PTSD. And my comment back to them is, so what? Take your health in your own hands, right? You don't wait for your department to find a dentist for you or a medical doctor. So why are you waiting for them to find a psychologist for you? In fact, for me, I'm very particular about who I'm going to be transparent with and open up to, right? I've got to have someone who's tough, but it's not going to sugarcoat things. I don't like sugarcoating. Just say it, what you have to say, right? And I'm very particular. And to think that a department could find a psychologist that's the right fit for you and your personality, I wouldn't go there myself. I would do it on my own. Find one that I like, that I work well with. Is what you want to do. So, I mean, it's good. I think it's great to have a department psychologist there. So when an incident does happen right there, that you can go talk to if you want, if it's a good fit for you.
So go there, DM, go to their website. If you don't have an issue yourself, but you are concerned and you have empathy and you want to help, go there.
And Deer Hollow in Draper, Utah.
Go to your website.
Oh, go to the website.
Donate.
And donate 100%.
People can donate. There's a lot of people that'll listen to this. Maybe
100%.
Everybody.
Yeah.
I don't charge you for the podcast, which is valuable. Dude, I bet you this is one of the most valuable podcasts out there. Why? Because we're talking about shit that's going to avoid problems for people.
Love it.
So again, I don't charge you for the podcast. So just take that money that I would have charged you and throw it to them. Even if it's $5, $5,000, $500, but also companies. I know a lot of you guys have companies and you guys put on events, sales training, things like that. They're not going to show up and talk about freaking, anything, but have them speak. And then that indirectly helps because you take that money that you guys charge for speaking fees and put it towards that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And go buy this damn cosmetics. Yeah. But more importantly, guys, just follow these cats. I'm glad you guys came in.
Hey, Brad, really such a pleasure. I really appreciate you having us here. It means a lot.
My pleasure. And again, we'll talk more about that 50K.
I'm excited.
It's got to be used here.
Yeah, no problem.
But it's quite a bit. We can make you a badass. We can make you a system that when people log into it, number one, you can, create money with it. You can create attention with it. You can create help with it. Like I'll make you something that's like, wow, dude, that's badass.
It's going to be badass because people want to hear from those that have walked the walk.
Yep.
And that's the value right there is we're not some psychologist that hasn't worked the beat, that doesn't know about trauma firsthand. We lived it.
Folks, Brothers in Healing. Go follow these cats. Until next time, keep it real.